Welcome to this week's Irresistible Carren's Couch. Now, I know you can see what I can see. There's a fluffy little kitty right here on the carpet and her handler, Janet. So welcome to Carren's Couch, because today we're talking about we're going to find out, do we have a stigma in society when it comes to disabilities and people with disabilities? Do we judge differently? Do we make different assessments? Do we form different opinions? Do we have different beliefs about their capabilities and capacities? That's the question that today's show is all about. And we were so fortunate because Janet sent an email in to Carren's Couch and to our production team telling us about her story. And I'm not going to give too much of it away because I really want Janet to tell us. But Janet's been visually impaired since she was born. And obviously that's come with its own challenges for herself as an individual. But I think that the important part about today's show is understanding and hearing from Janet's perspective what it's like to live inside the skin of somebody who does have an impairment, and how does society treat them? How does society react? How do we respond? And what are the greatest challenges? Because one of the biggest challenges that Janet has identified is finding gainful and meaningful employment. So welcome to the couch, Janet. Thank you for coming.
Carren.
It's a real treat to have you and Fergie here with us today. I'm super excited and super keen to hear your story and your journey. So tell us about what it's been like for you growing up with a disability and then also trying to find employment, because I think that's really the key for us today, is being able to help educate people who are out there that have their own businesses as to how easy it is or how difficult it is and where the challenges lie. So tell us about you.
Okay, well, as you said, I was born legally blind. So to me, I don't know anything different.
Right.
I don't have a problem with my lack of vision. The rest of the world seems to have a bit of a problem with it, but I don't have a problem with it.
Right.
So obviously it's created lots of challenges over the years, education, and then as I got older, employment. So
how does it create a challenge for you when it comes to education? What do you have to do to support yourself around that?
Okay, well, obviously education is a process of getting information in, retaining the information, then spitting the information back out again.
Right.
So my biggest challenge is getting the information in. So finding stuff that's accessible. So stuff needs to be either on audio or in braille or in a format that I can utilise. These days we have brilliant technology around that can, we've got screen readers that will read everything that's on your computer. Textbooks can be put onto PDF, which the computer will read back to you.
Really?
Yes. So there's absolutely no barrier there other than a person's lack of wanting to use it or lack of wanting it to be used. So I've got a university degree. I've got a Bachelor of Management Communication, which is with a double major, so it was 36 units. I've majored in Communications and Public Relations. I've also got an advanced certificate in Nutritional Medicine.
Wow.
I've also just about finished a graduate diploma in Human Resource Management, so I'm a bit of a study freak. I actually really enjoy the challenge of studying, and I've been called those things, nerd, egghead, all those things.
Perpetual student sounds wonderful to me.
Well, that too.
Yeah.
Wow.
But
so unfortunately, none of those qualifications matter because someone will look past the fact that I can't see and that I use a seeing eye dog.
So, okay, so you're incredibly qualified.
You're the most qualified unemployed person around, yes.
And you've got a really vibrant personality. From the minute you walked into the studio, you've lit the whole place up like a firecracker. So you've got an amazing personality. You're incredibly articulate, obviously incredibly intelligent, and you have the education to back up that intelligence. But how many job interviews have you been for, and what sort of jobs are you going for then that you're not finding success?
Look, I think that's one of the keys, that you have to be practical. I'm not going to apply for a job as a bus driver or a microsurgeon, I'm just saying.
That's practical.
It's practical.
That's practical.
So the jobs that I have been applying for are either in admin or human resources.
Right.
working for not-for-profit organisations, any of those sort of things that, you know, my resume is quite extensive, so any of the things that match my skills. Now, I did a bit of a reckoning at the end of last year on the 31st of December, wanted to see how many jobs I'd actually applied for.
Right.
So I went through and looked at I use the Seek job board to find jobs, and looked at how many, and it was 753 that I'd applied for last year, and I thought, I'm not going to do that again. That was a really depressing way to end the year.
Just in 12 months, you applied for 753 jobs.
That's right. Yeah.
How long have you been unemployed for, my love?
My longest stint of being unemployed is 5 years.
And recently?
Recently, it's been 3 months.
So what were you doing before?
I've spent the last 16 years working in local government.
Okay.
So doing as an admin support role. So, but unfortunately, that particular local government wouldn't let me use assistive technology. So I just found it increasingly difficult to maintain that without being able to use assistive technology.
Our local government wouldn't let you use assistive technology. So let me just put this question out there, and it could be quite controversial, but you know what? I'm just going to do it. If our local government is not supportive of all of the constituents inside of their, I guess, their community or their environment, their area, then if they're not supportive, then no wonder there's a problem that exists inside of our with employers.
Couldn't have put it better myself. Yeah, that's exactly right.
I'm ashamed, Janet. I've got to be upfront with you. I'm ashamed. 753 jobs for somebody, and I've only met you, and I've only known you for about 10, 15 minutes, but I'm surprised by that. I'm surprised by that. And an administrative support role, one would think that would be ideal. So, okay, why do you think then? Why do you think that finding a job is such a challenge? What are people saying to you?
Oh, look, we could do a whole episode on the different things. I just about write a book, but I can give you a recent and quite silly example in that I got a call from someone who I'd sent my resume to, and he said, "Oh, look, I like your qualifications. Can you come in for an interview?" And I always make sure it's on my resume anyway that I'm vision impaired and use a seeing eye dog and have access to assistive technology. Yeah. But I always make sure that I say, "Oh, did you notice on my resume that I am vision impaired?" in case they didn't thoroughly read the resume, which a lot of them quite often don't. So that's not a bit of a shock when I walk into the building with Fergie. And he said, "Oh no, I didn't notice that." He said, "I can't work here. We've got stairs." And I said, "No, hang on." I said, "There's nothing wrong with my legs. I'm vision impaired." "Oh no, you couldn't handle the stairs." Now, in 2009, I summited Mount Kilimanjaro. And I've just come back from trekking the Great Wall of China. Let me tell you about stairs.
I know stairs.
I know stairs.
Don't be talking to me about stairs.
Stairs I can do.
So how do you overcome that?
Well, sometimes you've just got to realise you can't. You know, some people are just born ignorant, and unfortunately that's the way that it's going to...
that kind of may have come out a bit muffled. Sorry. What you said there, Janet, was some people are just born ignorant? Is that what you said?
Yeah, and sometimes you've got to realise that you can only fight the good fight.
Yeah, right.
I could, if someone thought that it's going to be a problem with me walking upstairs because I can't see, I answer your own question, how do you fight that? You know, how do you get that through to someone? Other than say, look, can I put you under blindfold and see how you can do it, and make them realise that they can do it. Yeah.
You know, all jokes aside, and you know, all shame aside, I think what exists is a lack of awareness and a lack of understanding. You know, many, many moons ago in another life, I used to work in Sydney, and part of my responsibility was working with people with disabilities and case management and getting them into roles, which is one of the reasons why I was so compelled to do this show today. Because I believe that there's a huge portion of our society that are going unnoticed and, unaddressed. And I think that one of the things that I found most surprising was the lack of awareness inside of our employers about the capabilities that disabled people have or people with disabilities have. And the name disabilities is almost in and of itself contraindicative because a person with disabilities is actually far more capable in a lot of cases than somebody without disabilities, purely because you've had to hone your senses so much more and you've had to become so much more aware of your environment in a way that people without disabilities and able-bodied people completely dismiss.
The point that I'd like to make, though, Carren, is that the slogan for International Week of People with Disabilities is "Don't diss my ability." We all have a disability. Not everybody can do something. Good. Even you, my love, you can't do everything.
I know.
So we all have stuff that we can't do. Don't keep harping on about the stuff that I can't do. Let me prove what I can do.
And chances are what you can do is going to be like mind-blowing because you've worked harder at it.
Yeah. And as I said, I'm practical. I'm not going to apply for a job as a microbiologist or a bus driver. You know, I'm a little bit more practical than that. I know my limitations and my capabilities, but people need to let me have a chance to prove what my capabilities are rather than telling me what I can't do.
Do you know, I think that that's a really important point because you know what you can do. Nobody else actually knows. So if you apply for a job, you're applying for a job based on what you know you can do. So then it's not up to anybody else to play God and say, no, you can't do that. It's up to you to be able to say, well, actually, I can do this or I can't do that. Therefore, I'm going to withdraw my application.
Yes, that's exactly right.
You know, and I think I just had a bit of an aha moment there because I'm just catching my breath on that because it's a whole different way to think about it. As an employer, which I am myself, and I've never actually had anybody with a disability apply for any of my roles.
I could change that.
But I'm sure you could, my love. I'm sure you could. But now that I'm actually placing myself in that position, I'm thinking to myself, who am I to determine what a person can or they can't do? They know far better than I do because they've been living with what they're, with whatever it is for them. They've been living with that all their lives and they've learned to adapt and overcome.
But the other thing is to give someone a chance, and if it doesn't work out, at least you've given them a go.
Absolutely.
At least you've given them a chance.
So let's bring somebody else into the equation. I thought that it would be really powerful for us to bring somebody in who specialises in placing people into gainful employment. And we have got the amazing Whalley, and I'm just going to look at my notes because I want to make sure that I get her title right. So Whalley, she's the Manager of Employment Services for the Steps Group Australia. So welcome to the couch, Leanne. Thank you so much for joining us here today. I think it's really, really cool that you're here to be able to be a voice for Janet and a voice for the employers and tell us about how this dynamic works and if and where we're going wrong or right. What are your thoughts on Janet's story?
Sure. Morning, Carren. Morning, Janet. Thank you for inviting me along. It's great to be here. Look, if I can give a broader picture here, I think that in Australia we do need to look at how we go about employing people with a disability. I believe that Australia actually ranks around about 21st out of 29 of the OECD countries in employment participation rates for those people with a disability. So we're not really doing well, I guess, as a country there. Yeah. And I think everything that I heard Janet say, it rings true for what I hear as well on a daily basis. And that we need to dispel some of those myths and some of those misconceptions around employing people with a disability. And some of those things are, as you've touched on, so, unfortunately, it's, sometimes employers think that people with a disability can only do a basic job, or it's an entry type job, or that they're going to have higher absenteeism, when in fact they're probably going to have a much loyal employee who will really benefit not only their organisation but the rest of their employees and really value the job.
Yeah.
Other things like they believe there may be lower productivity, and these things aren't true. So my experience is that we actually place people into fulfilling roles, and many of the employers that we work with have given us very positive responses around that, and have very loyal employees.
So what's the difference then between somebody with a disability using an agency like STEPS to support them in finding work versus somebody like Janet has, just going out on their own and trying to, you know, make her way in the world and try and find employment? Because 750 job applications, I mean, that's a lot in anybody's book. You know, that's breathtaking inside of a 12-month period. So what's the difference between, in terms of how she's received or people with disabilities are received? Is it better to have an advocate like you guys working on their behalf?
Look, you know, everybody's very individual, Carren, and everybody's journey is very individual. But I guess what can happen is working with, and there's a number of disability employment services across, you know, the country, across. Working with one of those providers can assist in just, I guess, dispelling some of those myths. We can have some, I guess, raw conversations with them and reach out to employers, you know, so that we can, especially those that are new to disability and disability employment, so that we can down some of those misconceptions. We also not only just work alongside the job seeker, somebody like Janet, but we work alongside the employer as well. So there's relationships there that we build. It's about overcoming the barriers. As Janet touched on, it's about talking about the abilities of somebody and what they can offer, and not the disability.
And there are government-based incentives. I know certainly in Australia there are government-based incentives for employers, aren't there, where if different adjustments need to be made to the facilities or to the, you know, to the environment at the workplace there.
Absolutely, Carren. We can work in conjunction with either, you know, the employee or the employer to help access some of those workplace modifications. Definitely. And they can be very, you know, that can range from having assistive technology put in place to maybe altering a building so that there is access for an individual to work.
What do you believe is the primary misconception that we, in this show, you know, in the next 5 minutes that we've got, what do you believe is the major misconception that we can dispel for people so that there's more acceptance and less, I guess, that misconception and judgment? And what can we do?
Yeah, look, this really, Carren, there's various things that I think are stopping employers from taking on people with a disability. And, you know, I think those that I mentioned earlier, sometimes even people think that it's going to be higher insurance, but there's going to be a safety issue around employing somebody with a disability.
Have you had that, Janet?
Very often, yes. Yes.
And that's
even trying to join a gym, I've had that same problem.
Right, okay.
They think that it's going to be a bigger insurance bill.
Right, I see.
And I guess that's actually, you know, my understanding, and I could be corrected along these lines, is that those, you know, employers employing people with a disability, it's really about, that's irrelevant to the calculations of any sort of premium. You know, insurance company don't look at the base of people. They look at your record on you know,
claims.
Yeah, it's things like that. So it doesn't ring true. So the number one issue that you say that employers feel is that it's going to increase their insurances. Is that? I wouldn't say it's the number one issue. It's one of many.
Right.
I think what we have is a number of issues that come together that's prevent, or not prevent, but like everything, if you haven't been there, if you haven't tried it, there may be fear factor. And I respect that. And so part of our role is that agencies like ours have is to go out there and talk through those particular barriers that people may see, or those fears that they may have, to assist people recognise the benefits of employing people with a disability.
So you mentioned that Australia ranks number 21 out of 29 when it comes to our attitude and our employment of people with disabilities.
Participation rate, yeah.
So who's number one, and what are they doing that we're not?
I think, look, don't quote me here, sorry. I think it's definitely a European country, and I think it may be like a Sweden or something like that.
Right.
And they do have focused strategies, I guess, around employing people with a disability. There are. I think there may even be government targets around that.
Is that right? So, what in your professional opinion, what would be the next best step that people who are listening to the show and watching the show, if they are employers or they know employers, what would be your suggestion for them that may open a door for somebody like Janet in the future? What would you suggest for them?
Look, I would suggest talk to other employers that may be employing people with a disability to get, to understand. Talk to many of the employment agencies that actually support both employers and people with a disability out there. Get an understanding. Try it. Give it a go. See what happens.
Just give us a chance.
Yeah, that's it, isn't it? I mean, you don't know until you try. And while we're making comment on the situation about whether it will work or it won't work, we can't know. We just, we're just observers at that point, isn't it?
That's exactly right. And I think what's important is that we all go in and out of jobs. Sometimes jobs suit us, sometimes they don't. It shouldn't be any different for a person with a disability.
It's very heartwarming to know that an organisation like STEPS exists because, and obviously there are other agencies like STEPS, but I think it's really amazing that that there are parts of the community that are really paying attention to making sure that everybody is living a fulfilled experience here. And I take my hat off to you guys, Leanne, and I really do, because I think it's amazing work that you do. And without you, there's a whole part of our community that is unrecognised and unsupported. And it's important, it's vital, it's crucial that that everybody is included in that gainful employment and living that purposeful life. The part that I find so heartwarming, though, is that Janet, you've come in on the show because you wanted to make a point. You wanted to create awareness. You wanted to educate people. And I really hope that we've even just started to create a little bit of renewed contemplation around this issue. And the part, again, that I find so heartwarming is that in spite of and in light of your experience of 750 job applications, and your attitude, you've decided that education and awareness for people is the best way to start to create change.
You can't legislate attitude change. The government has got, as you said before, so many incentives and so much wage subsidies and stuff that they can offer, but they can't legislate attitude change. There's no legislation that covers that.
We can.
That's right. You have to educate and say, hey, give me a go. Just give me a good old Australian fair go. And if I can't prove myself, fine, kick me out. But chances are I will.
Well, isn't that the case for everybody, though?
Absolutely.
Like if a person that you put into employment in any role, if they're not performing, then they have to be replaced.
Absolutely.
So you're not asking for anything that's unusual. You're just asking for equality.
Yep.
Well, you know what? I am so grateful that we've done this show because hopefully Carren's Couch is going to facilitate some kind of change in attitude. And I'd love to check back with you, Janet, after the show and whatever else is going to come next, because it would be really interesting to see how or if the show creates any interest. And what I want to say to our viewing and listening audience, if you know anybody or if you have a business that you are looking for administrative support with somebody who is degree qualified in business management, communications, public relations and human resources, who is also passionate about health, nutrition and well-being, you couldn't ask for somebody that's going to be more capable than the woman sitting in the chair next to me. So if anybody that's watching the show or viewing the show, if you have an interest in talking to Janet and exploring what's possible for her and you, make sure that you get in touch with us. Carren's Couch, go to the Contact Us page and send us an email, and we'll put you in touch with Janet, where the two of you can discuss any future. And also, Janet, we're going to give you all the contact details.
Cute dog for the office to boot.
Oh, look at that. And we'll also put you in touch with Leanne and with Steps, and hopefully there may be an opportunity to create something there for you. But I really hear that you're speaking on behalf of everybody. And I commend you for that, because education and awareness
has to be the key.
It is. It's the 50% of the battle won.
Absolutely.
And the other 50% of the battle won is our community taking action.
Yep.
So thank you for sharing your story. You're very courageous and you're an absolute inspiration.
Thank you very much for having me.
And very shortly we're going to take the harness off Fergie and I'm going to get to have a snuggle. Oh, I get so excited. So, Leanne, thank you so much for joining us on the show today. Your insights have been really, really, really empowering. And I think it's cool for us to know where we stand and how our society is relating to different pockets of the community. And it's been insightful for me, and it's been an eye-opener for everybody, I'm sure. So thank you very, very much for the work that you're doing, and thank you for sharing on the show.
You're welcome.
So for all of our viewers and all of our listeners, I hope this has been a bit of an eye-opener for you and left you feeling contemplative, because it certainly has for me. So hang around and stick around, because coming up right next, we've got Carren's Corner. Welcome. Look, here we are. It's Carren's Corner. I'm so excited because today I'm going to be reviewing two of my favorite products. This one I've only just discovered. I've only just found it. But Enyo, I've actually been using the Enyo products for, gosh, it'd be at least 5 years. I first discovered Enyo through their bathroom range. They had a mitt that cleans the glass. They have beautiful, what are they called? Dusters that clean the floors. And they also have a kitchen range, which I absolutely loved, that cleans stone bench tops like an absolute charm. So I bought all of those products, and then recently they released the body and the face range. So when I saved up my pennies, because Enyo is a little bit expensive, but it's worth it. So when I saved up my pennies, I bought the facial range, and I bought what's called the daily face-offs. Now these are like really cool because they just allow you to take off your makeup if you're not in the shower doing the full face wash. So I bought a whole bunch of these. They come in a pack of about 7. Now you'll see here on the table, we've got a pink range and we've also got a green range. The pink range is just a special edition. And by the time this show goes to air, it's likely that you won't be able to get the pink range, but I wanted to show it to you because the pink range is in support of breast cancer awareness. And Enyo supports the Jane McGrath Foundation. So they generated a whole pink range in all of their products in support of the cancer awareness. Back to the product though. What I thought I would do is show you guys how the face range actually works and explain to you what that's all about. And then also talk to you about this new product that I discovered through a very dear friend of mine, Jen Hill, who is a distributor for my Eco Sponge. So what I've done, I've put makeup on the back of my hands, and this is fairly significant makeup, highly pigmented. Now the Enyo range has got, as I said, it's got what's called daily face-offs, just easily taking off your makeup if you're not in the shower. But then they've also got these cute little pads that you put your hand in and you can clean your face that way. Now one side, this side is called the fussy side, which is so cute. So this is the fussy side, which gives you a bit of an exfoliation, and this side is more gentle. So if you're just doing your general clean on a day-to-day basis, you use the gentle side, and the fussy side, it's probably twice, maybe 3 times a week to give you just that extra bit of a clean and an exfoliation. Now the beautiful thing about these products, and it's the reason why I wanted to talk to you guys about them, is because they don't require that you use any chemicals on your skin. You know, we use thousands and thousands of chemicals, especially women, on a daily basis on our skin, and it's all being absorbed into the bloodstream. And you know what? Somebody might say that one particular product is okay on its own, but when women are using thousands of products and thousands of chemicals combined, we don't know what the long-term combination effect is on our systems. So why not get rid of everything? If we don't know the answer to something, let's not use it. Let's just get back to nature. So with Enyo, you don't have to use any outside products. You can just use the face-offs or the little mitts yourself. And the little face-offs have got the same texture as the nice, soft, gentle side of the face mitt. So I've got some makeup here on my hand, and I'm going to use the Daily Face-Off. I'm just going to wet that here in a bowl and squeeze that out. And then I'm going to take this makeup off, and very quickly you'll see that there is not a thing to be seen on my hand. Straight off, no rubbing. I didn't have to scrub my eyes, and I didn't have to rub really hard. So if you're trying to get your makeup off your eyes, you know, because generally we tend to wear mascaras and eyeliners and they're more wax-based. So tend to be a little bit more challenging to get off the skin, but you don't have to rub. This was very, very gentle. I didn't have to scrub, which was really cool. So that's the Daily Face-Off. Absolutely brilliant. When we're traveling, fabulous. I travel all the time, and I'll always have my little mitt, and I'll always have my face-offs, because sometimes I'll be on stage all day speaking, and then I won't get a chance to have a full-on shower before I've got to go to an event in the night. So these little numbers are just fantastic for being able to take off the makeup, do a quick refresh, and I'm out the door again. Fabulous. You'll notice too that there are two bigger mitts right here. Now these mitts are the body mitts. So in the body mitt, again, your hand goes straight inside, and on one side it's a fussy side for exfoliation, and on the other side we've got a softer, more gentle side for the skin, which is just gorgeous. I love it. I use that instead of those bath puffs or face washes. So I have two of these in the house. I have two, well, I have four actually. I have two for Matt and two for me, purely because while one is in the wash, I'm using the other one. And this is the beautiful thing about the Enyo product, and also with the Eco Sponge, and it's why I wanted to talk to you guys about it, is because all the dirt gets trapped inside these fibers, and the fibers on each of these little pads are 100 times more fine and more delicate than human hair, and they're specifically shaped in the shape of a wedge, so that when you drag that over your skin, it's picking up all of the dirt, all of the bacteria, all of the grease and all of the grime, and trapping it inside of the fibers. And the only way you can get rid of all of that dirt is to wash it. So I wash mine every 3 days. I'm a little fanatical. I may be a little OCD. There it is. It's out there. But I think they recommend washing it once a week. You also get these cute little wash bags so that you throw your sponges in there, pop it in the washing machine, and then it doesn't get affected by anything else that you've got in the wash. Really cool. So that's the Enyo product. I absolutely love it. I think it's fantastic. And you know, while the fibers themselves may not necessarily be natural, they're made from 80% polyester. The question that I just wanted to put to you guys around this is, even though these are made from a polyester, in comparison to the Domestos, the Windex, the chemicals that we're putting on our skin, in comparison to all of those chemicals, this is way safer. This is way better for the environment and way better for us. So have a look at Enyo. If you haven't explored it, now's a really good time to do that. I don't get any kickback on any of this, so I'm just sharing with you guys what I love. And Enyo is definitely one of those products. And if you've got tile floors, I want to say to you now, the sweepers for the tile floors are absolutely legendary. You can't go past them. Make sure that you have a look at those as well. So that's Enyo. Over here we've got, this is a relatively new product, and believe it or not, this is made out of what's called konjac, and it's a root vegetable. So konjac is kind of a bit like a bit of a potato, I think, and they're made in Thailand. So konjac, they grind the root vegetable, and they take the fibers, or they take those groundings, and they moisten them, and then they freeze dry them over and over and over again inside of a mold that looks just like that. And then that's what you'll end up with. It's just purely made out of konjac flour. And the way that it feels on your skin is just, it's quite amazing. It's like when it arrives, it's dry and it's hard inside of this pack. But the minute you put it into water, it holds 10 times its weight in water. So I'm just soaking that now. And you would think that that would really, you know, be dripping dramatically. Okay, well, that did. But that's not too bad considering if you watch that now, I'm going to squeeze out all of the water and there was no drips that took place. So we've got two types of sponges here. This is the one that has charcoal in it, especially formulated for oily skin. And this one is just the plain, pure konjac flour. Now with these, or fibre, with the konjac, it's a gorgeous feeling on the skin. It's so soft and goopy, it's beautiful. And it takes off the makeup as well. So I'm just going to give that a bit of a wipe. Because this is a completely natural fibre, it has no additives and no specific shapings to get inside of the pores. The job that it's doing is pretty good. It's pretty good. What I would say to you guys is don't use waterproof makeups. We shouldn't be using waterproof makeups anyway from a chemical perspective. But these are not going to take the waterproof makeups off. What they do a really good job with is taking the makeup off that's just your normal day-to-day makeup. But what I would also say is beautiful. It's fantastic for razor burns. If you've got a partner or a husband that gets that rash, I've given this to Matt, my partner, and he always gets that really red and inflamed neck from shaving. He doesn't get it anymore. These lift the bacteria off the skin, they clean the skin, they're absolutely beautiful, but they're also awesome for people that get eczema and acne because they're completely natural, but they're also alkaline. So they leave a little bit of a film on the skin that's an alkaline film, and it's absolutely beautiful. Your skin feels really moisturized afterwards. And the gorgeous thing about these is that when you're done with it, which is at about 3 months when it starts to look a bit tatty, after about 3 months, soak it in a bit more water and bury it in your pot plant. They're 100% biodegradable and they're fantastic for the environment. It's called My Eco Sponge. And on the website, we're going to have a link. If you go to the shop section of the Carren's Couch website, we're going to have a link to My Eco Sponge where you can get your hands on these from Jen. Now, these are about $10 each. They're not expensive. And because they're every 3 months you're getting a new one, it's really no big deal. And you want to make sure that you keep it clean. So the way that you clean it, soak it in your water. If you want to pop a bit of bicarb soda in that water or a bit of lemon juice in the water, that's the way to go. And then you just simply, every morning, every night, wipe it over your skin. And the more water you put with it, the more effective it actually is. So it's absolutely brilliant. So I really wanted to bring you these two products to share them with you guys so that you know what I'm using in my bathroom and what I think is really effective, natural and great alternatives to the chemicals out there. Hope you've enjoyed it. Feel free to explore them. And I'll catch you again on Carren's Couch.